Look, when you spot a Lamborghini on the street today, you probably instantly think of ultimate luxury, right? Aggressive styling, unparalleled status, the whole shebang. But what if I told you this legendary brand wasn't actually born out of some lifelong romantic dream to build sports cars? No, it was born out of anger. Pure, unfiltered, red-hot anger. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack one of the most emotional, deeply personal, and honestly spite-driven origin stories in all of automotive history.
To really wrap our heads around how the Lamborghini brand began, we have to ask ourselves, how on earth does a simple bruised ego accidentally birth a global luxury icon? I mean, history is packed with great inventions born from necessity, sure, but this is an invention born from one of the most expensive and legendary grudges we've ever seen. We're going to look at how a completely simple suggestion about a car clutch spiraled into a bitter rivalry that completely and permanently reshaped the landscape of high-performance vehicles.
So, picture this. It's 1963 in Italy. This is a story about intense corporate rivalry, massive pride, and a totally accidental revenge plot. On one side, you have Enzo Ferrari. He's the aristocratic, absolutely undisputed king of Italian motorsports. And on the other side, Ferruccio Lamborghini. He's a self-made industrialist, a guy who still has grease under his fingernails and is very much used to getting his own way. When these two massive personalities collided, the shockwaves literally gave us the modern supercar.
Okay, moving into Section 1, a tractor maker's pride. From WW2 mechanic to self-made tycoon.
To really understand this legendary feud, we first have to understand the man himself. Ferruccio wasn't just some wealthy guy waving a checkbook around. He was a brilliant, hands-on mechanical mastermind. He actually took his World War II experience in Rhodes, where he was a vehicle maintenance supervisor, and leveraged it. He started buying up surplus military vehicles and transforming them into tractors for a post-war Italy that desperately needed agricultural equipment. His very first major hit, the Carioca tractor, ingeniously used a fuel atomizer that he invented himself. This scrappy, brilliant ingenuity meant the machine could start on expensive petrol and then switch over to much cheaper diesel, and that made him an absolute fortune.
And because of that incredible fortune, he could buy literally whatever he wanted. So naturally, he indulged his massive passion for fast cars. We're talking Alfa Romeos, Lancias, a Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, a Jaguar E-Type, and a couple of Maseratis. But here's the thing about Ferruccio. His mechanic's brain simply couldn't turn off. He just kept finding flaws in every single one of them. Eventually, he turned to the supposed absolute pinnacle of Italian motoring, Ferrari. He bought a few of them, including a gorgeously designed 250 GT.
Section 2. The Maranello Insult. The fateful clash of two massive egos.
Now, despite his immense wealth and this incredible car collection, Lamborghini was deeply, deeply unsatisfied with his Ferraris. And the sheer contrast between these two men's visions is just staggering. Ferruccio's incredibly logical desire was for a functional Grand Tour, a car that was fast, comfortable, beautifully appointed inside, and above all else, reliable. Enzo Ferrari, though, he basically viewed his road cars as repurposed, noisy track cars that he only built to fund his racing division. They were rough, the interiors were poorly built, and most frustratingly for Ferruccio, they had notoriously fragile clutches.
Just imagine this for a second. You spend an absolute fortune on a luxury car, only for the mechanics to literally hide it from you when it breaks down, because they don't want to admit it's inherently flawed. Every single time Ferruccio burned out a clutch and took it back to the factory, those Ferrari technicians would secretly squirrel his car away for hours to rebuild it, keeping him completely in the dark. But, being an expert in heavy-duty tractor clutches himself, Ferruccio caught on. He eventually just modified his own Ferrari using heavy-duty tractor components, which made it vastly superior. Armed with this little breakthrough, he drove straight to Maranello to give Enzo Ferrari himself a bit of constructive engineering advice.
So he arrives in Maranello, and Enzo Ferrari, a guy with an ego roughly the size of Italy itself, famously could not handle criticism. When Ferruccio told him the clutches were rubbish and actually offered up his own solution, Enzo looked this self-made tractor tycoon dead in the eye and delivered a brutally elitist insult. He said, "Let me make cars, you stick to making tractors." I mean, wow. It was a textbook example of exactly how not to treat your best customers. And, as we know, it was a monumental mistake that would change automotive history forever.
We've all been there, right? We've all been told we aren't good enough at something or been condescended to. But Ferruccio took that deeply personal sting and completely weaponized it.
Furious and stung right in his pride, he drove home and immediately vowed to build a superior sports car just to prove Enzo wrong. He realized that if he took the extremely high-quality components he was already using in his tractors and put them into a high-performance exotic car, he could beat Ferrari at his own game, and probably make a massive profit doing it. The war was officially on.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Palace Revolt, the incredible irony that handed Lamborghini his dream team.
So you have to wonder, how exactly does a tractor maker build a world-beating supercar out of thin air? Well, he needs the best automotive engineers on the planet. And in a twist of pure, almost unbelievable dramatic irony, Enzo Ferrari's own famous temper actually handed Lamborghini the exact revenge weapons he needed. Here's what happened. Enzo's wife, Laura, had been heavily interfering on the Ferrari factory floor, causing massive friction with the staff. When 5 of Ferrari's absolute top executives and engineers walked into Enzo's office to demand that she step back, Enzo was absolutely outraged. Instead of listening to them, he fired all 5 of them on the spot.
And among those fired was Giotto Bizzarini. This guy is arguably one of the greatest automotive engineers in history. He had literally just finished creating the totally iconic Ferrari 250 GTO. So when these fired, disgruntled engineers went off and formed their own freelance firm, Ferruccio Lamborghini did not hesitate for a second. He swooped right in and hired Enzo's recently fired top-tier talent. It was petty, but it was absolute genius. He was quite literally paying Ferrari's best men to destroy Ferrari.
Section 4. Building the perfect engine. Forging a V12 weapon to crush Maranello on the open road.
So, with his newly acquired dream team fully assembled, Lamborghini set his sights on out-engineering Ferrari's beloved power plants. Through Bizzarini's brand-new freelance engineering firm, Società Autostar, Ferruccio basically commissioned a masterpiece. Bizzarini was tasked with designing a brilliant quad-cam V12 engine, and the mandate was crystal clear. It had to be smoother, it had to be stronger, and it had to be far, far superior to anything Enzo Ferrari was currently selling to the public. And Bizzarini delivered. He created a triumph of engineering that became the literal beating heart of Lamborghini's assault on Maranello.
Now, looking at their philosophies, these two men genuinely couldn't have been more different. Enzo lived and breathed for the track. To him, customers were just walking wallets there to pay for his racing team. But Ferruccio Lamborghini, he actively refused to race. He viewed motorsport as a costly, highly dangerous distraction. For Lamborghini, absolute engineering perfection belonged on the open road, right in the hands of the customer. He wanted to build the ultimate Grand Tourer, totally free from the harsh compromises of a race car.
To really understand just how incredible this spite-funded engineering actually was, let's look at this number, 2010. That is the astonishing year that Lamborghini finally stopped using variations of Bizzarini's original V12 engine design. Think about that. That engine powered the 350 GT, the Miura, the Countach, the Diablo, going all the way up to the Murcielago. That is nearly 50 years of absolute automotive dominance, and it all traces directly back to one single engine commissioned out of pure, unadulterated rivalry.
Okay, on to our final section, Section 5, Birth of a Supercar. A 4-month sprint to prove Enzo dead wrong.
Fueled by just immense anger, seemingly boundless wealth, and the expertise of Ferrari's own former top talent, Lamborghini moved at absolutely lightning speed. Check out this timeline. In a matter of just 4 months after that fateful insult in 1963, Ferruccio built a massive state-of-the-art factory from scratch in Sant'Agata Bolognese. And by the 1964 Turin Auto Show, he was already debuting a fully realized world-class automobile, the 350 GT. It was a totally unprecedented pace in the automotive world, and it was driven entirely by his sheer force of will.
The 350 GT wasn't just a car, you see. It was Ferruccio's physical 150-mile-per-hour proof that a simple farmer could actually dethrone a king. It was vastly more refined, it featured a gorgeously appointed luxury interior, and it possessed a V12 engine that was a total marvel of modern engineering. It completely validated Ferruccio's vision, and it instantly, undeniably put Ferrari on notice.
Lamborghini's ultimate legacy is one of luxury, extreme performance, and unapologetic boldness. Ferruccio famously said with a very well-earned smirk, "You don't mess with a farmer." And honestly, he proved it. He built a rival empire that still stands toe-to-toe with Ferrari today. And it was all born because Enzo Ferrari was just a bit too arrogant to take advice on how to build a better clutch.
As we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with this pretty provocative thought to chew on. Think about all those iconic Lamborghinis, the Miura, the Countach, the Aventador. If Enzo Ferrari had just swallowed his pride for maybe 5 minutes and fixed Ferruccio's clutch, literally none of them would exist.
Would the modern supercar landscape as we know it even be here today, or did it actually require a bruised ego and a legendary insult to push automotive engineering to its absolute limits?